Hey there, We Can't Wrestle podcast listeners. If you haven't noticed, we have switched our server to Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple, and many, many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership, and it's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So go ahead, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Highly recommended by me and everybody else here at the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to episode 84 of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Nate and Aaron here with you. Aaron apparently dying on the other end of the spectrum.
Just getting over my illness.
God, it's been going around. The wife's been sick for like 2.5 weeks. Luckily, I haven't gotten any of that yet. So, but on this,
those of you that live in like Florida and other California, I don't know if we have people listening in those areas and everything like that. You know, where sun's shiny and nice. Go fuck yourselves.
But not really. This week's show, we are going to do...
I'm just kidding. But I think everybody should have to live in this geographical area of the country at least for 2 years of their life.
Just to know. Just like everybody should have to work...
Everybody should have
to work in customer service for a year, too.
Yeah. But everybody should just have to live in, like, the Ohio, Indiana, Michigan area for at least 2 years. That way, wherever you go back to, when you start bitching about it...
You'll appreciate what you got. Yes. Well,
it's raining. I've mowed the yard while it's raining. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, forget it.
I've gotten up in the morning and it's been 60 degrees and gotten out of work and it was 22 and there was snow and ice all over my car. And then I'm like the scene on Fargo where William H. Macy goes out to scrape his window.
Yeah.
And then he just that's the moment for him. He just flips the fuck out.
Yes.
I love that movie. Gustafson. Alright, so on this week's show, what we are going to do is we are going to reflect on wrestlers that we lost in 2019, kind of to wrap up 2019 here on the show.
And wrestling personalities. Not every one of them was a wrestler.
Right.
But...
And also, we were going to, one of our listeners, whose name I hope I don't butcher it, Nick Opalewski, requested that we watch WWF Super Tape Volume 2. Nick, that is coming up on a future episode. Aaron's WWE Network has given him some shit today, so he didn't get to watch the show yet. But I promise that is in the works, and we appreciate you listening and supporting the show and putting in a request.
I tried to look it up on YouTube, but it was not on YouTube, so...
So we'll just go ahead and say that'll be the next episode. We'll do that. So as kind of a calling an audible, we're going to talk about just little moments in wrestling that stick in our head. I think that's kind of what...
Which is one of our great sponsors here on the We Can Wrestle podcast, Audible. We don't have a sponsor.
Not yet.
One of us should have a sponsor, but we don't have a sponsor.
And now I got to think which one of us needs the sponsor. So I think we'll start off with the performers we lost in 2019, and then after that, like I said, we're gonna discuss 5. I guess the gist of it is things in the history of wrestling that stick in our head, right, Aaron? Like things you think of, just
random moments,
little moments or segments.
Like it's not necessarily like Hulk Hogan beating the Iron Sheik. That's in everybody's head. You know what I mean?
Right.
But everybody has like little personal things. It's like this tickled me, or this was a fun moment for me, or I really enjoyed this. You know?
This was a really standout promo that I think about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
Like
that.
a lot of people talk about like when Scott Hall came out for the first time in the NWO. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But nobody as much talks about like when Kevin Nash came out. But I'm sure there's people that thought it was cooler when Kevin Nash came out than when Scott Hall did. You know,
Right.
that type
Yeah.
of thing.
Mhm. I guess to start the conversation about people we lost in 2019, you have to start with Harley Race. Passed away at the age of 76 this year, or last year, I should say. That guy, um, one of the greatest of all time, um, and a guy that when I was a young kid, he was just the. It's funny. He's one of those guys that when I was young, he was that King Harley Race guy from the WWF, you know. And then as I got older and started watching history instead of watching just what I was being presented as a child, you get to learn and see, wow, that guy was really fucking good. And, that's my thing about Harley. It's just he was a guy that, like I said, I didn't know a lot about him, and that the fact that when I was a little kid, 10 years old, and he's King Harley Race of the WWF, I didn't realize, oh my God, this is a guy that's had 22 years of a career before this.
Yeah, and that's one thing. Like I've been watching a lot of old WCW,
Mhm.
like because they put like the Saturday nights on there and things like that. So I've been watching that because I just liked it when I was a kid, and it makes me think about when I was a kid. You know,
Right.
and I know that like they say like the WWE is honoring their past, and they do that now. Okay, but back like then, WCW like they actually honored the past of professional wrestling more than the WWF did.
Yeah.
Like when they put Harley Race in, he was just Harley Race, whatever. Like King Harley Race, We're
Mhm.
not going to acknowledge that this guy's a 7-time world champion or anything like that. But but WCW, NWA, WCW would do that, you know.
Right.
They'd acknowledge what people did in other places, and they would acknowledge what I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense.
It does. Vince
But
until the 90s, Vince McMahon didn't even acknowledge that there were other wrestling promotions on
yeah,
TV. And you're right. They would bring well, I mean, shit, look, Gorilla Monsoon in 1990, probably a rib, but in the 1993 Royal Rumble, the Gorilla Monsoon called Carlos Colon this youngster.
yeah, this youngster coming out here.
No, it's probably a rib because Gorilla was in business with Carlos. He owned part Puerto Rico
Yeah,
for years, but in the WWF,
he
the
was a
WWF
youngster.
that in WWF that was Carlos Colon's first match.
Yeah, just saying like. But anyway, I just Harley Race was he was one that when he died, I was like, God damn it, you know.
One of the best wrestlers
Like
on God's green
I don't,
earth, as he would say.
I don't, I don't want to read that this guy died, but it happened, and he was not very old in the scheme of
Mm-hmm.
things, and that man lived a few lives, like
Yeah.
what would be considered a few lives in the 76 years that he was alive.
Mm-hmm. And actually, I don't want to. I don't. I'm not saying this to sound morbid or anything, but with as many times as he had kind of scares and stuff there those last few years, he actually lived longer than I thought he would. Like, and again, I'm not trying to be morbid, but there were some incidents there where like he had that fall and he was in the hospital and stuff, and it was like, oh my God, we're gonna lose Harley, and then it finally kind of happened almost I guess out of nowhere because it didn't seem like there were any of those scary moments or anything right before.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, definitely a legend lost. And if you want to see something cool, A couple of really cool Harley things. First of all, we're talking about moments in wrestling that stick out. Everybody knows the Ric Flair bounty promo that Harley does, leading into Starrcade '83. But something Aaron and I always joke about is there's a point in the promo where Harley kind of gets a little lost. when he's talking about people he wants to, Paul Jones in your army, Dick Slater, and then he kind of pauses. He's like, Kabuki. Like, he was just a little lost. And then that one that leading up to it where he's just standing outside his car, like, being Harley.
You guys like the epitome of cool.
Just waiting for that girl to come over and interview him.
Well, it's a guy, but to him, he's like, whatever.
Oh, yeah, the girl does the reporting outside the contract signing. That's right.
Yeah. I mean, he was just the man, and
I know. He has your favorite Hulk Hogan match.
Yes, that match they have. Well, it's okay. I shouldn't say my favorite Hulk Hogan. My favorite, not wrestle. It might be my favorite Hulk Hogan match. I don't know, but it's if it's not my favorite, it's pretty high up there. But it's because Hogan doesn't work like Hogan in that match.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, he doesn't work like WWF Hogan.
Yeah.
Another guy that we lost in 2019. I guess we'll go with who doesn't? That's in our age group. Who doesn't have many fond memories of Mean Gene Okerlund? Put that cigarette out.
He wasn't a long-time close personal friend of mine because I never met him, but I felt like I knew him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, the guy was... Mean Gene Okerlund was involved in some way in professional wrestling the entire time that I watched professional wrestling.
Right. And he was most definitely... I don't know that anybody could ever dispute that he was the best guy to interview wrestlers. He was the best guy to lead a wrestler through an interview. When you look at Mean Gene, it's funny because there's a lot of wrestlers that are great promos and et cetera, but Mean Gene interviewing somebody, it's a package. When I think of somebody interviewing Hulk Hogan, I think of Mean Gene. And then you go later in the career, when I think of somebody interviewing Ric Flair. Ric Flair during the Nitro years, with Mean Gene. It's the shank of the evening.
Yeah.
They became synonymous with each other. And I always loved a Mean Gene Jake Roberts interview. Jake, somehow, some way, always taunted Mean Gene.
And his interviews with, anybody the guy interviewed was great.
Right.
You can't say, oh, well, Mean Gene didn't have a good interview with this guy. It's like, no.
Or even later in his career, he was one of the best things about WCW 2000 when he was pissy Mean Gene, grumpy Mean Gene.
Yeah, and he had great, reactions to people and things that people would do. And, yeah, I really like him. Or really like him.
I know what you meant.
You know what I mean? There's nobody else like him, and if there's things that he would do that if somebody else did it, you'd be like, this is stupid, this is hokey. But for some reason it wasn't hokey, if Gene would be like, oh my, for some reason when it was Gene, you let it go, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And I have to tell you, folks, one of my favorite interview moments ever is at SummerSlam 90 when they're in Philadelphia and Ultimate Warrior asks Mean Gene, what's the difference between Rick Rude? What is it? What's the difference between Rick Rude and the Liberty Bell?
No, what do they have in...
What do
the Liberty Bell... What do the Liberty Bell and Rick Rude and Bobby Heenan have in common? One's cracked and the other is a ding-dong.
And then Gene doesn't laugh. And then Warrior looks at him, and Gene's like, oh. And not to mention, fuck it. And another thing that does, I guess I won't say doesn't get talked about, but everybody, we all loved the duo and the chemistry of Gorilla and Bobby. And I think sometimes the chemistry between Bobby and Mean Gene doesn't get talked about enough,
Yeah.
They were really good together too. But yeah, definitely a loss for pro wrestling. Mean Gene Okerlund. He's one of the guys I never got to meet that I wish I could have. Before he passed, he just never wound up at a convention that I was going to or anything before. I never got to meet him. It would have been cool. And I also have always heard, as far as meet and greets and stuff, he was a great guy too. As far as fan interaction, and he appreciated what he had, and he appreciated the fans. So, Mean Gene will be missed in professional wrestling.
And in some wrestling, like other wrestling fan base circles, not ours. Apparently, he died twice.
I saw that.
That poor man. But to his credit, I think he waited till there were like 87 blistering comments before he deleted his own posts. I'll give him that.
Oh, God. All right, next up, King Kong Bundy passed away this year. That was one I didn't see coming. He was, for some reason, I was a dumbass and didn't write down how old he was. But King Kong Bundy passed away.
60s, I believe, 64 maybe.
That guy, I think King Kong Bundy's an underrated heel. A lot of people like shit on the fact that he main evented Mania with Hogan at WrestleMania 2, and WrestleMania 2 is not a really good show, but he was a perfect opponent for Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
And the angle leading up to it was good, where he put Hogan on the shelf with the rib injury, and it was a good old-fashioned Hulkamania storyline. And he was a good old-fashioned Hulkamania heel. You put him with Bobby, which was a smart move. They took him, not dissing Jimmy Hart, but Jimmy Hart and Bundy, to me, didn't go together, but Bobby and Bundy definitely did.
And I was 1 year over. Bundy was 63 years old when he passed away.
Okay.
He passed away the day after my birthday, March 4th, 2019.
He also had I enjoy him also in World Class as a heel. Going back and watching now, with hair and without the hair.
Yeah.
And he had Fritz's retirement match with Fritz at the big stadium there in Dallas, and he was a good heel there. But yeah, and then for some reason he just kind of fell off the map in the late 80s, and then resurfaced in the WWF in 94, 95. Got to participate in... Poor Bundy. Both WrestleManias he was in big matches.
Pretty shitty.
But regardless, like I said, I think that I'm never going to say King Kong Bundy's one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, but I think as a monster heel, he did the job. And I always enjoyed Bundy. Probably Bundy's team with Studd is the only time I can really stand Studd, to be honest with you. I'm not a big John Studd guy.
One of my favorite things is like when Bobby Heenan and Andre the Giant and King Kong Bundy were together, and they were Bundamania, Bundamania, Bundamania. like Bobby Heenan just had like the two biggest motherfuckers in his corner. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I liked when like Bundy was, like Andre was with Bundy trying to get a Hogan. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like it was cool.
Yeah.
And like when Andre would manage Bundy, it was cool stuff.
Definitely. The next guy we'll talk about.
He wasn't the greatest, like you said, he wasn't the greatest wrestler in the world, but he was a hell of a bump taker and shit like that, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, for a big dude, yeah. He was he's kind of like I liken him to another guy that kind of catches flack, but if you watch him, you know who else is, and I don't want to get off topic, but you know who else is like for a big dude. Like I actually call him out of respect because I really liked him. You know who else is a big fat bump machine?
Who's that?
One Man Gang / Akeem.
Oh yeah.
Like you watch him wrestle Savage or Hogan or that super tape that we're gonna review. He has a match with Hercules. It's short, mercifully, but he's a big fat bump taking machine. That dude could bump for them baby faces, you know, and that's what a big heel's supposed to do: dominate and then bump. What?
Nothing.
Dominate then bump.
Yeah.
Sounds like a '90s rap song. Another guy you and I may not have a lot of discussion here to talk about, but we do have to show respect. I honestly have not seen, again, this is a guy that was before my time, didn't see a lot of his career, but 76 years old, we lost Pedro Morales this year.
Yes, and he should be talked about, and I've just obviously seen clips and then things of when he was like, you know, working as an agent in the WWF, but was still like doing like tag team matches, and he had that little didn't he have a little mini feud with like Randy Savage?
Yeah, he had a run with Savage, kind of to establish Savage as the Intercontinental Champion when he first
that's
won
what I'm
the
saying.
title.
Like he was the Intercontinental Champion, and Pedro was the last big face Intercontinental Champion.
I think Pedro even did a little run with Piper too, back during that time.
I know Bruno did one with Piper and Savage, but yeah, I mean, I can't speak a lot to Pedro's career because I wasn't around for it. But I know I've watched matches with Pedro in it that were fantastic. Like there's a match on a DVD that I have where he fights Ivan Koloff, and it's you think it's like, oh, this isn't gonna be very good, and then they just start lighting it up. It's fantastic. It's Jim Ross does the commentary for it because there wasn't any commentary on it, but it's good. So yeah.
But and you know, another thing that I've always heard about Pedro is in the 60s, 70s WWF, there was nobody other than Bruno that was more over in MSG than Pedro Morales. So there's something to be said for that, you know.
Yeah.
In that time frame, you're over with that crowd. You the man in New York, baby. Another guy that passed away this past year, actually in the ring, was Silver King. He wasn't underrated in Mexico, but I think during his time in WCW with the Luchadors, he was an underrated luchador in WCW. The guy was almost like in the Luchadors, he was like Val Venus. You know, he was a really good hand. Somebody you want to have him go out and put over Rey Mysterio or Hoovy or somebody like that.
Honestly, I'd say, you know, more than a Val Venus. You know what Silver King would be of the luchador locker room? I think Silver King would be like the Greg the Hammer Valentine of the lucha locker room.
The guy that can put somebody over. He's kind of stout, but he can just go and go and go and
go.
Yeah.
And the only thing, like, I mean, I can't say nothing bad about him. I also can't say that, you know, I know everything about his Lucha Libre career either, because I don't. You know, like, I didn't know who Silver King was before he showed up in WCW,
right.
You know? I know that I was watching WCW Saturday Night leading into the NWA tag team tournament. Remember that thing they did?
Yeah. Where they had the Malenkos and...
Yeah, and they said the Malenkos were... I forget what they said they were. I'd have to look it up. But anyway, the Silver Kings are on there, and they cut one of the worst Worst promos I've ever heard in my life. Ever seen that video where that kid's like, "You ever think you can do what do? Can you do what you could?" You
Yes.
seen that kid? That's what Silver King reminded me of on that. Not to disparage him or whatever, but it was like that played, and I thought to myself, I'd say all the time how much I loved WCW as a kid, but they allowed that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's like that's not Silver King's fault. He's Hispanic or he's Mexican and he doesn't speak English, and they have him trying to cut an English promo, and
Yeah, why did you just have him cut it in Spanish, you know?
why even have him cut it? Or why after he did it did they go, huh, we'll go with it?
Yeah, just put it on there.
Oh, it's horrible. But anyway, I know we're not talking about bad things about guys, but no, Silver King was entertaining, and it's unfortunate that he passed away in the ring. And I know, like people as well, he died doing what he loves. Like I hate when people say that.
Nobody wants to die at 51 years old at work. I don't care what you do for your job.
Yeah,
Nobody wants to pass away at 51 at work.
yeah, I'm good.
Just a couple of
The
other
only
ones.
thing I want to do, the only thing I want to die doing that I love is sleeping. Like, let me just die in my sleep. I love to sleep. Just let me die doing
Let me
that.
pass on peacefully.
Other than that, it's just horrifyingly painful and terrible. And then all you're gonna remember is I really like to wrestle, and then I died doing it.
My spirit will not rest easy.
Yeah, like his chute didn't open. Well, he loved
Parachuting.
he loved parachuting. I bet he didn't about 30 feet before the end of it.
He loved observing nature. Yeah, probably until that bear knocked his fucking head off.
Yeah, hate him.
um,
I hate he died doing what he loves. God damn it.
just
Go ahead.
a couple other ones I have written down here. Another one we lost is another guy whose actual wrestling career I'm not too familiar with, but he is a huge part of most of my wrestling memories from my childhood and my teen years. The story was actually broke by friend of the show, wrestling historian and host of the Breaking Kayfabe podcast with Bowden and Barry, Barry Rose, that even though we didn't know until December, Rene Goulet passed away in May of this year, or last year. And when I say he's part of the, he was, to me, he was the guy in the suit with the long hair that came and broke up fights in the WWF all the time.
Yeah.
Like, that's what his career was to me, until, again, like I said, you learn about the past, but, and it's like I told Barry when we were talking earlier today, the craziest thing to me is WWE didn't know it. The guy worked for him for like 40 years, and they didn't know he passed away like 7 months ago. It's crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, there's times I know it's different, but I mean, I was talking about a guy that used to work for me, and I mentioned his name, and he wasn't always the most liked guy there or whatever, and somebody was like, yeah, he wasn't the most liked guy, but you don't like to hear about that happening to somebody. And I said, what do you mean? And they were like, well, he died. I'm like, what? I know that guy died.
Yeah.
I know it's I don't want to sound heartless, but sometimes you lose touch with people, you know what I mean?
Right.
Or situations, or just it happens.
Mm-hmm.
If Rene Goulet distanced himself from the WWF or WWE and didn't have anything to do with them, and nobody from the Rene Goulet family reached out to the WWE, how would they have known?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Well, probably most of the people that are even associated with Rene don't work there anymore. So
That's what I'm saying. So, like, I don't know.
the only other two I have written down here, not to disparage the deceased, but we lost the fake Razor Ramon this year. Rick Bogner passed away at the age of 49. I know, it's big. It's sad that the guy died, but that is one of the biggest dumps ever taken on a wrestling program was the fake Razor and the fake Diesel.
Yep.
I don't, honest to God, other than him being, I don't even know if I ever seen a Big Titan match, to be honest with you, from Japan. But that was his two gimmicks. He was Big Titan in Japan, and then he was the fake Razor in the WWF. And then Ashley Massaro also passed away at 39 years old this past year. As some of you may remember, she was did she win the Diva Search?
I believe so.
Okay.
And she was a very beautiful woman.
Very beautiful woman. And actually, you know what? Not a terrible... It was that era for Divas Wrestling. But she, out of the bunch, she wasn't terrible in the ring either, And she was a decent promo. And, yeah, so, I mean, she's not like... I don't know.
She wasn't like Christy Hemme talent. Like, Christy Hemme was like a once-in-a-lifetime personality out of that thing, or well, maybe not her. I'd put that. I don't want to say anything bad about someone who's passed away, but she'd probably be number 3, maybe in the female contingent of people they got out of those type of like diva contests and shit like that.
Between or behind Christy and
Maria.
Huh?
Maria Kanellis.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Why am I not thinking? The girl that was paired up with Jamie Noble.
Oh, Nydia?
Yeah, wasn't she in the Diva Search too?
No, Nydia actually won Tough Enough. Like, she actually won an athletic competition.
Okay. Well, I stand corrected. Yeah, Maria Kanellis too, definitely. Maria Kanellis is, my thing with her is, she is a really good performer. They've just given her shit to work with over the years.
Yeah.
Because when she was paired up with Santino, that was awesome. Like, that was entertaining shit. She was really good. And even in the bubble-headed interviewer gimmick, she did a really good job with that. I haven't liked what they've done with her since she came back. But...
Well, her husband's a talented man, too.
Yeah.
And they don't utilize them the right way.
Not at all. They could have been Skip and Sonny.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. The little pestering, annoying couple. I mean, they're never going to be in the main event, but they're always going to be there in the mid card. And I mean, I think that could have been the best way suited for them. I know we got off topic there, but yeah, Ashley Massaro passed away last year, so that was the only ones that I had listed here. I don't know if you have anybody else that you thought of that. Those were the ones I had.
Nope, I don't have any.
All right, well, then what we will do here is we'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll go with our top 5 segment. Like I said, we're just talking, it's not like most iconic moments or anything like that. It's just moments that, and the funny thing about it is, I'm looking at my list. Every single thing on my list happened between 1990 and 1994. So anyway, that'll be coming up right after the break. We'll be right back with more of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Alright, wrestling fans, welcome back to the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Nate and Aaron here with you, and coming up in our next segment, we're going to talk about just some moments that stick in our head in professional wrestling as fans. And before we do that, of course, this is the point in the show where I'll give some shameless plugs. First of all, if you missed the announcement, we are going to be doing a second version of the show that is going to be a live streaming version, starting on the 12th of this month, which will be this upcoming Sunday. Where we're going to do an hour live. It'll be in the Facebook group. It'll be on the Facebook page. Talking about the modern product. I'm really excited for that. It's actually going to be a live streaming video version of the show. So we are really...
And if our little preview... I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
And if our little preview last night was any, indication on how it's going to go, it should be pretty successful.
Yeah. Fan interaction, you can comment So I'm pretty excited about that. And also, speaking of the Facebook group, if you have not yet, go ahead and join our Facebook group. It is growing, and I appreciate everybody that's in it and that has been participating. So 2020 is going to be a big year for the We Can't Wrestle podcast. That being said, Aaron, speaking of the Facebook group, before we get into our top 5, you had put a post out earlier today to some of our listeners that are in the Facebook group if they had any questions they wanted to ask us. And did you get any responses on that?
Yeah, I got one that I don't know the answer to. One that I'm just now trying to get back into the modern era, so I might just let you field the answer.
Okay.
And then I have one that we both probably all have an answer to, and mine's pretty simple. But the first one was from Eric J. Lund, and it says, "What's up with Necro Butcher? He does not look well."
Have you seen the picture?
Yes, I don't know what's wrong with him.
I think it's just a matter of he's old now, and obviously his ring style did not take care of his body.
Yes.
And could not have been good for his health. So I mean, that's really all I got. Like,
basically, that's what you look like when you turn 75, and you let somebody run you over with a lawnmower for 40 years.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. If you have that many pieces of glass and dollar bills stapled to your body for 20 years, you're probably not going to look too good.
So anybody doing it now?
Yeah, there's your future.
And from everything I hear, Necro Butcher is a great guy and a very intelligent human being. Like, didn't he used to be like a professor or something?
Yes, and actually, from some of the shoot interviews that I've seen,
a decent wrestler.
Yeah, if he wanted to wrestle, he could have been a decent wrestler. But he chose that other path, and now that's what we got. He looks like he's dying.
A chewed piece of bubblegum, or that like whitey, like rubbery part of the bacon fat.
Yeah.
Something like that. So basically, don't do that to yourself.
Especially if you can work, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, they should just hire him. They should just hire him in the WWE as a performance center. Just like stick him in the corner.
Yeah, this is what will happen.
Yeah, Triple H could be like, "You don't listen to Norman Smiley, you wind up like Necro Butcher."
Hi guys, smoking a Pall Mall in the corner. Next question.
Where's that? Sorry. This John Martin Jr. asked, and this is the one where it was good for you. So my question is this: would it be best to split up the Undisputed Era or keep them as a stable, or even drop Adam Cole and have Finn Balor become their leader? Like, I think he means maybe having them turn on Adam Cole and just take Finn, or I think he's Prince Balor now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have basically have Balor become their leader, is from what I'm understanding.
I would say absolutely not, because to me, and I would not even add anybody to the Undisputed Era, period. And here's why I say this: because I liken it to the magic of the first 6 to 7 months of the NWO, when you had just Hogan, Hall, Nash, Six, and Big Show. And then you start switching things around and you water it down. Or like the later versions of the Horsemen, where they kept rotating guys in and out of the Horsemen. I think when you start a faction like that faction, when those guys, and I think we talked in the last episode, you weren't there for the second part of the show, Aaron, you had to bow out, but we had talked about, even before you left, we did my top 10 guys of the 2010s, and one of my guys was Adam Cole. And then Kyle and I later on talked about guys we think are going to be the biggest stars in wrestling in the next decade, and I picked Adam Cole. Adam Cole is the future of wrestling to me. Adam Cole and Drew McIntyre. And Adam Cole is like Shawn Michaels, where I think he fits as both a babyface and a heel. And I'm going to get to my point here. I'm being long-winded. But to me, the Undisputed Era is... it should stay those four guys. And when it's time to break them up, the other three do turn on Adam Cole. Because he needs to be the babyface that emerges. And then he, with a couple of other guys, feuds with those three. And then they split up. Don't mess with it. You know what I mean? Leave it as it is. It's great. Don't fucking mess with it, because that's what killed the NWO. They messed with it. And you lose that magic. So no, in no way, shape, or form do I think that they should take Adam out of the Undisputed Era and insert anyone else in. If anything, Balor should have his own faction. You know?
Yeah.
And that's just my opinion on it. What do I know? I'm not getting paid to be a booker, but that would be my thing. To me, when Adam Cole is out of the Undisputed Era, eventually, once the feud burns out afterward, everybody goes their separate ways, and you're done with it. Because it's not going to get better than it is. There's a reason that it's so over. And it's because those four guys fit very well together. So.
All right. And the last question is from Ashley J. Smith. And the question is, what can be done to improve AEW?
And I have said this like a broken record on the show every time we talk about AEW. I think that the one thing that could make that company better, the one thing that could make that show so it does not lose my interest every single week like it does now, is one guy, one head honcho. They're like WCW during the times of the booking committees. There's too many cooks in the kitchen, which makes the show frantic, and it has no focus. I don't know who Cody's feuding with, because Cody's in 7 different feuds because there's 7 different people writing the fucking show. That's confusing, and it's not engaging. And the only other thing I would say is they need to have more promos. They need to have more consistent. MJF should be on every show. MJF shouldn't be on... he shouldn't be the hottest heel in the company and not be on every show. The show is so... the show has too many personalities, I guess is what I'm saying in the long run. And the matches are too long. I want to watch long matches on pay-per-view. I don't want to watch long matches on TV. That's one of the things people shit on Raw about. Is that, every Raw show has this long-ass, 20-minute 6-man tag match or whatever. That's boring. It's one of the things that people have shit on Raw about for years, and AEW does it, and it's okay. So, I mean, that's the biggest thing, is they need to get focused, because they have potential. There's no doubt they have potential. The first couple shows are really good, but it's just they've lost the focus, and I think that's because there's too many cooks in the kitchen. That's my opinion.
All right. I mean, I agree with the one voice thing. I was going to say that, but you said something that you said they have too much. They have too many personalities. I don't think they have enough personalities. Because to me, a personality is something that gives me a reason to want to care about somebody, and I don't know anything about MJF.
Oh, I get. No. We agree on that. I guess what I was saying was it has multiple personalities, in that the booking has multiple personalities. Okay. Yeah. No. Okay. I agree with you. Yes, we're in agreement there. What you're saying. I
don't have any idea why Cody Rhodes and MJF were friends.
Right.
Like, last I knew, they weren't ever in like a company together until they showed up in AEW. Because I don't think Cody Rhodes was in MLW, was he?
Nope.
And that's where MJF was before he went to AEW, right?
Yes.
Okay, so then just all of a sudden they're best friends? Like, when did they meet?
Right. You gave me no story, and you,
Yeah,
and it's not like
like
if they would have,
they could have simply said that um, since Cody Rhodes was the son of Dusty Rhodes, obviously he was somewhat privileged. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm,
Or whatever. And Dusty had sent him to a nice school, but Cody was not necessarily, a snobby kid at the nice school. He was just he had a dad that could afford to send him there.
right.
And for some reason, this common kid became friends with like this snobby ass kid that nobody else liked. But for some reason, Cody just thought he was funny. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
he's just everybody has that
Everybody
friend
has that friend.
that nobody else likes, but you're just like, I just like the guy.
Mm-hmm.
In some way, and sometimes I'm that friend to people. You know what I mean? So, not saying I'm a snob, but there's people that don't like me, and then I have friends, and they're like, I don't know why you're friends with that guy. But anyway, that could have just been a natural story that they told, and it doesn't need to be over the top. It doesn't need to be outlandish,
Mm-hmm.
And then now 20 years later, this guy turns his back on his boarding school or high school friend. That's a story.
And
But I don't know why. I don't know why they were friends.
not only that, you could have, if they would have just paced themselves and told that story over 6 months instead of over 3 weeks. Like every once in a while, every couple of weeks, have those two have an interaction backstage. Damn, Maxwell, why'd you do that? You know me, man. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and then get into the story where MJF starts helping Cody, and then have MJF turn on Cody. Like you said, they gave me no reason to get invested in that story, and then on top of that, coming out of it, they put Cody in like 4 different other stories, so it's not even important. So yeah, I mean, it's just, to me, it's the booking. It's the too many voices in the booking. There's not that, and I'm not saying you don't have multiple people booking.
Or teach me about the Lucha Brothers.
Right.
I know nothing about the Lucha Brothers. Are they really brothers? Or are they just Mexican guys that like each other?
They're brothers.
I'm being serious there. Are they
Right.
really brothers?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's something. They're brothers. Okay. But WCW, okay, knew that they had all these luchadors they were bringing in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that nobody, I shouldn't say nobody, 99% of their audience was going to have no idea who these guys were or what they were about or what they were doing. You know what I mean?
Right.
So for like 4 weeks, they had Mike Tenay go on TV and be like, first, I'm going to tell you about the history of Lucha Libre. This is what Lucha Libre is. Now, I'm going to tell you about all these different little personalities that we have in Lucha Libre.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have an individual segment for each guy, but they were like, this is La Parca, and this is Psychosis, and this is this guy, and they'd have him say like a little 20-minute promo or something.
Right.
Why are they all wearing the masks? This is why they're wearing the masks. And then they waited till the end, and then they did a actual report about Rey Mysterio, because guess what? He's our number 1 luchador. So you've met all the other little minor characters. Now here's the big character. Well, teach me and why is he Rey Mysterio Jr.? Well, his uncle was Rey Mysterio Sr., and now he's given him the mask, and that's like a thing that we do down here. I'm not saying you need to explain all of that, because we already know all of that, but tell me why the Lucha Brothers are important.
Right. And that, Mike Tenay was so important to that Lucha division.
Yeah.
Just from, It was such a smart move to hire him, have him tell those stories, and then whenever there was a lucha match, have Mike Tenay there with Dusty, with Tony, with Bobby. Because Dusty, Tony, and Bobby didn't know what the fuck was going on. You know, and they did it so well because they would have Tony or Bobby or Dusty ask Mike, okay, why is this thing? What's this guy's story? Just, it was, yeah.
Like everything I understand, like that Alex Marvez guy did terrible on commentary, but from everything I hear, that guy is like a research machine.
Right.
Okay, and he basically prepares all the shit for these guys, for Tony and Jim Ross. You know what I mean? Because I've heard Tony Schiavone talk about how like a lot of the shit that like the information he gets from Marvez. So why not let Alex Marvez
sit with them?
Not even sit with him, but like do that.
Right.
You're like, hey, let's go to this personality profile of the Lucha Brothers with Alex Marvez. And Alex Marvez can tell me about the Lucha Brothers.
Right.
Or he can tell me about Jungle Boy. Or he can tell me about Luchasaurus. Tell me why I should give a fuck about these people. Because I don't know who half of them are.
And that comes down to it, just storytelling, and that's the biggest issue, I think, with AEW right now. So, Ashley, I hope we answered your question as to what AEW could do better. All right, so now we are going to roll into these top fives, just wrestling moments that stick in our heads. Aaron, do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
Doesn't matter to me. It's the Roaring 20s, baby. It's free spirit. Do whatever you got to do.
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
Well, I'll do my first one. It's
I'm on the giggle water. I don't care what we do.
my first memory that always sticks with me, comes up in my head a lot of times as a wrestling fan, is from SummerSlam 1992. We are in England, and here it is.
The British Bulldog's gonna win, whether he wants to or not.
The British Bulldog's gonna win, whether he wants to or not. Why would he not want to win, kid?
Well, he was on cocaine. He had no idea what was going on.
That's always like, to me, every time I see that, I do not laugh. That's hilarious to me. The British Bulldog's gonna win, whether he wants to or not. Yeah, there's that.
I figured out something we're going to do after this.
All right.
We're going to go over some Roaring 20s catchphrases. I mean, it's time. I mean, look how long we've been doing this. How long?
For 3 years now. Going on 3 years in March.
And how long has
Tootsie been our theme?
Yes.
For at least 2 years.
It's our time, man.
Wait a minute, I tell you.
Yeah. Yeah, now you're on the trolley. So we're gonna do this. All right. I'll go with sorry. I was grabbing my pen. I'm gonna go with this one. I'm gonna go with Hulk Hogan suplexing the Big Boss Man off of the steel cage on Saturday night's main event.
An amazing moment. Like we were just talking earlier about the Harley Race Hulk Hogan match. That Big Boss Man cage match is also one of the best Hulk Hogan matches ever.
Yes, and it's also one of the best Boss Man matches ever.
Yes, those two guys were made to work together. Like there was just something in Hogan and Ray Traylor's DNA that they were made to be opponents in the ring. And then later on, when Traylor turned babyface, they were made to be partners. But anyway, you're right. That is a fantastic moment.
I don't think people understand the awesomeness of that. Like this wasn't like like Big Boss Man at like SummerSlam '91. Where he was in the jailhouse match with Mountie.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or his match with when he was feuding with Mr. Perfect. This wasn't like 310-pound Big Boss Man.
No, this was
This was
almost
Big
400
Bubba
pounds.
Rogers, like 420-pound Big Boss Man, and this wasn't like post gas Hulk Hogan. This was like 340-pound Hulk Hogan,
Puffy Hogan.
and they did a fucking superplex off of the big blue steel cage. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely, and again, like you said, I mean, it's just an iconic moment that sticks in your head.
Enough people talk about.
What's that?
It's not. It's like they show all this stuff like on like the was now forever or whatever. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Those videos and stuff. But that's not something that gets shown, and I don't know why.
The next one for me, and it's funny because out of the three of us, me, Aaron, and Kyle, hindsight 2020, I tend to hate on ECW a lot in this show, and I was never a gigantic fan of ECW after 96-ish. 95 is definitely ECW's best year with the Mick Foley stuff and all that, but I won't go on and on because we're talking about the moment. But one of the moments that sticks out for me in my head, because at the time when I saw it, it's what made me think, what is this ECW thing? This is crazy. Is the night that the ECW fans in the arena filled the ring with chairs. That's
they threw that Terry Funk and
yes.
drowned the Public Enemy in them.
Yes, that's an amazingly shot moment. In that, to me, that's the first moment that ECW resonated in my mind, because the cameras are so, the look is so gritty. And,
yeah.
And just this one isolated moment by itself, what it makes you think is, what the fuck is going on? Now, in 2020, with everything that's happened since, someone that didn't live through that time probably couldn't understand that. But at that time, as a wrestling fan, that was fucking nuts.
There's also the crazy footage of when they collapsed the ring.
Mm-hmm.
When they just got all the people in the ring and it collapsed. Yeah, ECW, man. I know you don't like it or whatever.
And I don't hate ECW. To me, ECW is only good. To me, ECW is only good for like 2 years. ECW is good in 94 and 95, and after that, I kind of lose interest. And not that it didn't have good moments in the you know what I mean? But as a promotion as a whole, it for those 2 years, I think it's great, and then after that, it loses my interest a little bit, and it's kind of overrated.
I can dig it, but like I said, there's moments in there that it's kind of like this. Like, to me, a moment that I think about sometimes in wrestling is when Raven was crucified and Tommy just nailed him, or you know what I mean?
Yeah. On the cage.
Cracked him with the chair.
Yeah, he was handcuffed to the cage. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's just a moment I think about. But yeah, anything else on your?
But that speaks to Paulie. I was just going to say it speaks to Paulie because Paul Heyman, to me, one of Paul Heyman's greatest attributes is Paul Heyman, like Vince. That's where him and Vince, I think, share a common genius. Paul Heyman was as at Vince as creating moments.
Yeah.
Maybe the show as a whole was butt, but you're not going to remember the show as a whole was butt. It was butthole. Because you're going to go, man, that moment, that Kimono Wanalea danced, and that was because the show was in chaos. Like, the moment Kimono Wanalea danced atop the ECW arena.
The ring broke.
Yeah. So it was even, and that's genius. Paulie thought to say, take our hot Asian chick and have her go out there and do a fucking striptease while we get this shit fixed. So these people aren't getting restless in this hot-ass ECW arena.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that creating moments is something that I don't know if anybody's better at that in wrestling history than Vince and Paul Heyman. So I'm done with that. That's good. We're good.
Okay. And I didn't say that none of these weren't going to be iconic moments. I wrote down 5 quickly that just pop into my head.
Yeah.
And so the next one on my list is when Hogan turned.
Mm-hmm.
I know I said, oh, this isn't going to be all iconic moment. I was just saying, like, these are things that resonate to me that I think about, not on a daily basis, but when I'm like, like a wrestling idea or a wrestling thought just pops into my head. I still vividly remember Hulk Hogan turning heel because as a kid I was like, what the fuck? Like,
and
it's like how I was saying about Mean Gene Okerlund. Like, Mean Gene Okerlund had always been in my wrestling life, you know what I mean? And by 1996, even before 1996, I knew wrestling was fake. But Hulk Hogan was always the good guy.
Right. There's 2 things that are because over the years you watch something multiple times. Like, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I may have mentioned on the show before, but so I've watched every one of those movies, every one of the shows, everything, honest to God, in my life probably 100 times. So as you watch things over and over again, or you watch movies, or you watch entertainment, you start to notice the little subtle things, because you don't have to pay attention to the story anymore. You already know the story. So there's 2 things that that really stick out for me with that moment, and the first is, how good is Hulk Hogan in that when he comes out, his face is a baby face. And when he leg drops Randy Savage, the subtle change of his facial expression. You know what I mean? He literally goes from the nicest guy you've ever met to the biggest fucking dick you've ever met. And he does it so well. The other thing is, to me, that moment is the culmination of the 11-year feud between Bobby Heenan and Hulk Hogan. Because Bobby Heenan gets to say, I have been telling you people about this guy for 10 years. And no one would listen.
And the one guy that hated him for years, and then the one guy that has supported him for years has to stand there and interview him about it.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. Great moment. Sticks in your craw, if you will. The next one that I have is a little obscure, I guess. But it always sticks in my head, and I'll get to my point here. But in 1990, when Crush had been added to Demolition, leading into the Survivor Series of '90, apparently on at TV tapings and stuff, they were trying out this new thing where Demolition was wearing these full face masks. And in the promo pictures leading up to Survivor Series '90, when they're going to team with Mr. Perfect, they were actually pictured wearing those masks. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
They never wore them on a televised match. And then very shortly after that, Bill Eadie left, and Crush and Smash were just Demolition, and they kind of got jobbed out and went away. But to me, that image of them in those masks always stuck out. Like, I was like, oh, are there any matches with them wearing those masks? They look fucking cool. So then, eventually, I don't buy wrestling DVDs anymore because I have the network. I have a huge wrestling DVD collection from pre-network days. But I don't buy DVDs anymore, just because, or Blu-rays or whatever. But I bought the WWE Unleashed, or Unreleased DVD set, because I saw that they actually had a match on there with LOD that was never released for TV, that is with Demolition with those masks on. That's the whole reason I bought the DVD set. So I got to finally see a match with Demolition. But that moment, or that image to me of them with those masks, since I was a kid, has stuck out to me. Like, I never got to see them wrestle in those masks, and then now I finally did. Another funny thing about that, and we'll move on, I know it was a silly memory, but anyway. Another funny thing about that is they actually have, on that unreleased thing, they have tryout matches.
Yeah.
For a few guys like Crush, like he wrestles as Brian Adams or whatever. But anyway, they have the tryout match for Earthquake, and he's wrestling as Earthquake Evans, okay? And he's wearing like pants and a button-up shirt, like the shit that he wore when he did the push-up thing with Warrior.
Yeah.
But here's the best part: when he comes out, guess who his manager is? When he comes out, it's like, burner, and he comes out with Slick. Yeah, and it's Jive Soul Bro, the Jive Soul Bro. And it's Earthquake Evans with the Doctor of Style Slick. Like, what could have been?
Yes.
But yeah, anyway, that was, I want to loan you that DVD set sometime so you can watch it, because there's some neat shit on there. But anyway, move on to your number 3.
We're going to go with, and I've talked about this quite a few times, but it's my favorite thing, like, to watch. Like, I could just go and watch it. I could watch this every single day and be entertained by it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Jerry Lawler slapping Andy Kaufman on David Letterman. Fucking love it.
It is great. It's iconic. It's funny. It's 3 of the greatest entertainers ever on one stage. Jerry Lawler, who's one of the greatest professional wrestlers ever, personality. You know, people can say what they want. You think about the greatest ever in wrestling, Jerry Lawler's up there. Andy Kaufman, funny as fuck. David Letterman. It was great.
Yep. And it might be the most believable thing that's ever happened in professional wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Because they fooled everybody.
It looks like chaos.
Yes, and it's my favorite thing. I love it. I love it.
It's not on my list, but you reminded me by mentioning that. We've both talked about this one before. Fucking Andy Kaufman doing jambalaya and Fred Blassie's reaction.
Oh, yeah.
God, it's so good.
I come back and David Letterman's like, that was the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life.
That's one of the things I could watch every day, honest to God.
I could watch that every day, too.
Watching Blassie react to fucking Kaufman singing that song is one of the... Like, I never don't laugh at that. You know what I mean? Like, it's never not going to be funny.
Yeah. And Andy Kaufman would not... The only time he would laugh at his own stuff is if it was on purpose. You know?
Yeah.
He would laugh at his own stuff to be obnoxious and piss people off, you know? But he does not purposely laugh when he's doing jambalaya.
Right.
Like, he laughs at the fact that Freddie Blassie is looking at him like that. Because if you notice, he doesn't. It's not a sustained laugh.
Yeah, he looks over at Blassie and it's like, oh, that's funny.
He's looking at him like, what the fuck?
That's fucking funny. And you know, that's exactly what he thought. He's like, God damn, that's fucking funny.
Yeah.
Oh. But yeah, definitely the Lawler slap is, like you said, it's the most real. It's the most anything that wasn't actually a shoot. It's the most real moment in wrestling.
Yeah, and then the other Letterman wrestling related thing that I could watch, maybe not every day, but on a weekly basis, is Baby New Year with Vince McMahon.
That's good too.
Vince, is that your suit? No, I rented it.
He pops Letterman.
Yeah, I mean, there's just all kinds of good stuff in that thing. But
All right, so now my number 2 on the list is the entire paper, the entire
what was that?
pay-per-view, the entire pay-per-view of Halloween Havoc 1990. At that time, I was probably 11, 12 years old. That pay-per-view looked different, felt different than anything else I'd ever seen. I don't know if this is going to make any sense, but you had like
No.
the orange ropes, and that is like from my childhood. Like a lot of people would probably reference like the Black Scorpion stuff and stuff like that, but to me, from my childhood, that's the moment in time that sticks out to me most about WCW. Like when I think about WCW when I was a kid, I think about Lex Luger versus Stan Hansen. I think about the
Brothers.
Steiners and the Nasties. And I think about Sting and Sid Vicious leading up to that Halloween Havoc. Like, to me, that's one of the most, a lot of people would say, what? But in my brain, that's an iconic pay-per-view. I don't know why. And it's a really good card. And just like I said, it just looks different, feels different. As a WWF kid, and then starting to watch WCW or whatever, just the entire pay-per-view of Halloween Havoc to me is one of my wrestling memories. And it's a really fucking good pay-per-view too. Like going back and watching it now, like damn, this is a good show.
Yeah, the Steiners and the Nasty Boys fuck each other up. It's
Mm-hmm.
good shit.
Luger and Hansen, like the feud with Hansen is my favorite Lex Luger stuff. There's a lot of Lex Luger stuff, but to me, to my mind, the Luger and Hansen is my favorite. I know a lot of people would say Luger and Flair, or even that Luger Steamboat stuff, and that's all great. But just for me, for my wrestling memories, Luger Hansen, like I pair those two guys up in my brain, if that makes sense. So yeah, not a lot else to say about it, but just like I said, that pay-per-view sticks in my wrestling memories.
All right. The next thing on my list is it's another WCW thing, but it's Ric Flair returning in 1998. So it would have been on the exact date was September 14th, 1998.
Mm-hmm.
Ric Flair returns to WCW.
Arn Anderson bringing out the Horsemen. What a goof! What a goof!
Yeah. And Flair and Bischoff both of them just bring it, man. Like they like people can say what they want to say about Eric Bischoff, and there's people that are friends of this show that completely hate Eric Bischoff, but he worked that one, like I don't want to say worked that one, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he knew, okay, I'm gonna go with this.
It's almost like Vince rolling with just being the piece of shit Vince McMahon.
Yeah. It's actually Ric Flair and Eric Bischoff is the real life Vince McMahon versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then Flair comes out. And also, I will say this. I don't know. And it could be, honestly, it could be because, when Goldberg won the title from Hogan, it was in that, the Georgia Dome. It could be because the Sting-Hogan match that was the culmination of that was a bit of a letdown. Is not NWA, but when Flair comes back in 98 to WCW, is there ever a bigger pop than Flair returning in 98 for WCW? Is there ever a bigger WCW pop than that moment, like at that crowd?
No. And it's not because it was in a big arena or it was kind of a letdown. It's because it's the coolest fucking moment in WCW history.
Yep. And it is.
And it is the
Fire me.
sign
I'm
that
already
that
fired.
any WCW, I don't understand why anybody after the Crockett's was just like, we don't want Ric Flair. Ric Flair's old news. We don't want him around.
Yeah, because every time he's on one of your shows, he's the most popular guy.
And
'Cause-
people fucking lose their minds. You know what I mean? Like, it's gonna sound silly, or it might be stupid how I say it or whatever. But what happened to Ric Flair is like the same thing, but just flipped, as what they try to do, like with Roman Reigns.
Mhm.
Like, we don't want Roman Reigns, make him go away. And they were like, yes, you do want him. Take him. And then they were like, we want Ric Flair. No, you don't.
No, you don't.
You don't want no Ric Flair. You want,
You want more of the stale-ass NWO shit.
or you know want no Ric Flair. You want Lex Luger. No, we don't. We don't dislike Lex Luger, but we want more Ric Flair. No,
No, you
you
don't.
take Lex Luger. It's like, Jesus Christ, man. Like, that company just, he should have just been the guy the entire time. You know what I mean? Like, but anyway.
So number one for me, or I guess not number one, but the...
Honestly, you know what's funny?
What's
Sorry.
that? No,
I didn't mean to cut
you're
you.
right. You're good.
Like, in the modern WCW era, you know who had like the two greatest pops? One would be Pops, Ric Flair, and the only one that would be like somewhat like close is Dean Malenko.
Oh yeah, the Seco play thing.
Took off his hood and showed that he was
I think that was
Seco play.
I think that was Slamboree '98, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that fucking crowd's like, yeah, Jericho's about to get his. Yeah. And that speaks to the testament of both Jericho and Malenko. You know,
Yeah.
they built that's one of the greatest, like, and again, I'm not talking NWA, we're just talking when it was called WCW. That's one of the greatest feuds in WCW. That the entirety of that company. That's one of, to me, that's one of the most entertaining things they ever did. And it's because they just let those guys, you know, it's funny because that stuff that literally you know, that's probably one of those things Eric Bischoff wasn't even involved in, you know? Like, that was just something that happened. Because they weren't paying attention. We're not paying
Kevin
attention.
Sullivan told these guys to have a feud, and Chris Jericho went out there, and Dean Malenko was honestly off for a little bit. So he kind of had a feud with himself.
Yeah.
For half of it. His dad, the unfortunate passing of Boris Malenko. Boris Malenko.
That's good stuff.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So the last one on my list, to my mind, sticks in my mind, and as we've talked about on the show before, as we grow older and we look back on things, our favorite wrestlers change. And my favorite wrestler, number one, and he's still in my top 5, he's still in my top 3. My favorite wrestler for the longest time was Shawn Michaels, and I love Shawn Michaels. And Shawn Michaels is without a doubt wrestling perfection. However, as time has gone on, I have realized that in reality, my favorite wrestler is Randy Savage. And something that sticks in my mind is, to me, the one of the most real feeling wrestling promos I've ever seen. And it is Randy Savage's promo after his match with Ric Flair at WrestleMania 8. Is there a more intense promo? The wild eyes, he's like ripping his tights. The line, "You haven't been beat up properly yet. You put your hands on my wife, you son of a bitch."
Yeah.
That promo is, I mean, probably other than some of the Dusty promos, because Dusty's my favorite promo ever. But that Savage promo to me is the most real feeling. Even more real feeling than the Hard Times promo. Dusty's Hard Times promo is hard to beat, but I think Randy Savage's post WrestleMania 8 match is the most real. He's so good in 2 minutes. 2 minutes of the most intense, and maybe it's because he really was a psycho. It's kind of like Piper, It's like that guy was good because he was not putting on a fucking act. But I mean, that promo, to me, it's iconic. It's fucking amazing. I love that promo.
I can dig it.
Oh man, his eyes. Like I don't know if I've ever seen Randy Savage's eyes with a more wild look. You know what I mean? Like that guy looks like he is about to go off. And that line's great. "You haven't been beat up properly yet" is one of the best lines ever spoken in any form of entertainment ever.
Right. Especially since the guy was like all bloody. And,
yeah, you're bloodied and you've lost a tooth or whatever and shit. You still haven't been beat up properly yet.
and my old lady slapped you around, and your manager got bumped, and you still ain't been beat up properly yet.
I fucking love that shit. So I mean, there's not a lot more to say about it. I just to me it needs a mention. Because it's one of my favorites.
Okay, and I saved my last one for my most random one. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Super random. And it was on a Monday Night Raw from October 28th, 1996.
Okay.
And it is a, when they would do those, like, face-to-face interviews or whatever, but they would be on each camera.
Uh-huh.
Well, this is Bret Hart and Steve Austin. Bret Hart's in Calgary. Steve Austin's at the studio. And Steve Austin is pissed off because he's supposed to have this face-to-face, on-camera, whatever interview with Bret. And it keeps getting delayed. And Steve is just at the studio, just cooped up, and he's getting more and more pissed. Huh?
He's brewing and stewing?
Yeah, and then it finally happens, and, like he'll say something, and Bret won't say anything back right away, and it's because Bret's selling it like it's like a time delay thing, because he's in Canada or whatever. But like Steve Austin will be like, "And that's why I'm gonna get you, son." And like Bret's like sitting there looking at the camera, and Steve's like, "Well, say something, you jackass." Like Bret's not saying something back right away, so he's getting mad, and it's just 1996 Steve Austin might be the greatest thing ever.
Or definitely up there.
I mean, it's my favorite version of Stone Cold.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1996, okay, Steve Austin, like Stone Cold Steve Austin and Hollywood Hogan were like the best heels. Okay? And they were like the last like true heels.
Right.
Like in 96, Steve Austin was doing nothing to try to make fans cheer him. Steve Austin was doing everything he possibly could to make people hate him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know Steve Austin became the biggest babyface that's ever existed, but Steve, if you watch 1996, it is readily available. It is like, you can tell that Steve Williams, the man, did not want to be a babyface at all.
Steve Austin would call, and this is something that I've thought about for a while. And the two characters, the two, I guess, personas are not the same. And I'm not going to say David Schultz. The two characters are not the same in any, I guess, in the presentation of them, because one's more flamboyant and one is more like a blue collar. However, there are amazing similarities between the character of Stone Cold Steve Austin and the character of Classy Freddie Blassie. Because the heel Stone Cold Steve Austin would call a fan a big fat piece of trash. You big fat piece of trash. And then the heel Freddie Blassie would call a fan a pencil neck geek. Do you see what I'm saying? Like those two both made their impact by being complete shit talkers, but then going into the ring and backing it up 100%.
Yeah,
am I off? Like, am I off in that they're very similar?
But Steve Austin wouldn't even just, and Fred Blassie as well, like wouldn't even just call his fans big fat. He just called whoever he's wrestling big fat piece of trash. Like,
if you put an S in front of Hitman.
Like, one of the greatest, and I wish I could find it, one of the greatest, like, 1 hour produced things WWF ever did was in 1996. They made a video cassette called "'Cause Stone Cold Said So."
I will let you borrow that. I have it on DVD.
And it is just Steve Austin for an hour in front of a green screen, just talking shit.
I love it when he does the segment about the '97 Royal Rumble, and he tells you
get you big smelly piece of trash.
he tells you what he's telling Phineas in the ring when he's talking. Yeah, no, I totally have that on. I totally have that.
Smelly piece of trash, and he's like, I don't come out here dancing and twirling around from a bunch of sparklers and shit. You know, it's like
WWE did probably, I'd say, oh God, it was probably 15 years ago. They took a lot of those Coliseum videos or whatever, those WWF home videos from '96 that they did, and they put them on. They reissued them as DVDs, like that Austin one and the Undertaker's Gravest Challenges and stuff like that. And I bought a bunch of those then, so I'll try to dig that up so I can let you borrow it so you can check it out.
That's hands down one of the greatest videos ever made. And Steve Austin, after he, like, you know, became, like, you know, somewhat of a fan favorite and then won the belt, and that's the stuff that gets, like, you know, widely shown, which it should.
Right.
You know. But any fans that might be younger and all they see is Stone Cold Steve Austin from like 1998 to what, 2002?
2003-ish, yeah.
2003. That's an amazing Stone Cold Steve Austin, but that is and I know it sounds insane to say it, but that is a nicer, more watered down version of Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Absolutely. You need to watch Steve Austin. You need to watch Steve Austin from probably from his feud with Savio Vega in the spring of '96 until
he wins the tag belt with Shawn.
Yes. And that's even. I mean, we've talked about it multiple times in the show. We did our top 10 feuds ever. My favorite rivalry ever is Steve Austin and Hart Foundation, and he was babyface then, but Aaron's correct. Like, you watch that early Stone Cold shit, you will not be disappointed.
He is the biggest asshole in professional wrestling history.
Him and Blassie.
Fantastic.
Him, Blassie, and Heenan.
It's fantastic. But that's my last one, and then I need to take a break, and then if you want to do these 20s things, we can.
All right, we will round out this episode of the show, since we have now entered the new Roaring Twenties. By the way, in the 1820s and the 1920s, there was a plague, so I don't know what's going to happen this year. But anyway.
Have you watched wrestling?
Heyo!
Heyo!
Aron is going to regale us with some expressions and catchphrases that were popular in the 1920s, and then, of course...
You're going to try to guess them.
I'm going to try to guess them, and then we will round out with our ending theme, which is Mr. Al Jolson, which I think is actually from the 30s, but fuck, who
No.
You know, don't ruin a good story with the facts.
Not.
What?
Anyway.
Tootsie. It's from the 20s?
Yes.
Okay.
I would Google it right at this moment, but it would take me off of my list. And I'm not 100% used to this 20s technology yet.
The steam engine?
Yes. Okay.
That was very Joe Pesci of you. Okay.
Listen. That person over there, that person's a bimbo. What are they? They're a bimbo.
A chick with big boobs that's probably going to sleep with you.
Not in the 20s.
Oh.
In the 20s, a bimbo was the reference to a macho man.
Dig it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a bimbo, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm.
First name Bim, last name Bo.
Check the
Bim
boots.
Bo. Check the ass of the pants. Bimbo.
No confetti. It's a bimbo.
What if I say something is berries?
Berries?
Berries.
I mean, that sounds pleasant, so I would say that something is good.
Yes. That sounds like berries to me. That's something you would say.
Every one of these I'm picturing in this voice. It sounds like berries to me.
Like if somebody was like, you want to go get ice cream and then maybe go to the Nickelodeon, and he'd be like, that sounds like berries to me. And then you'd wind up your car for an hour and head on down the road.
Say goodbye.
Yeah. What if I told you look at those bubs?
Boobs?
What do you think of those bubs?
Is it boobs?
Yes. Hey, buddy. You know what would be berries? If he would butt me.
Whoa. Give you a cigarette?
Yep. Good job.
What?
I'm reading some more here.
Okay.
One person I don't want to butt me though is that cake eater over there.
Oh my.
What's a cake eater?
Cake eater. Like somebody that's trying to swindle you?
No. It started out as a ladies' man, like a pretty guy, like a pretty boy, but turned into something else.
Oh my.
Yeah. Basically, it's another name for a man that doesn't like dames. I'll just say it that way.
So Clark Gable was a cake eater.
Yes. I don't think Clark Gable was a cake eater.
I'm pretty sure Clark Gable was gay. I'm just saying.
I don't think he was. I think you just made some shit up that ain't true. Oh, Clark Gable was not gay.
In the 20s, instead of he likes the cock, they said he likes the cake. All right, I got you.
He takes the cake. Guess it really can have your cake and eat it too. But I think what you just said about Clark Gable was completely untrue.
I'm slandering Clark Gable long after
Yeah.
his death. All right.
I'm going to research that because I know you're wrong.
Well, frankly, I don't give a damn.
Okay. But don't take any wooden nickels either.
Wooden nickels.
What does don't take any wooden nickels mean?
I know there's a store in Fort Wayne called the Wooden Nickel, but I don't know. I don't know what the expression where it's actually.
Means don't do anything dumb.
Okay.
Like if you had a kid and they were getting ready to go outside, you'd be like, "Don't take any wooden nickels." Anyway, dumb Dora, you're just a dumb Dora.
I don't know. I can't even guess on that one.
It's what they called stupid women in the 20s.
Well, I guess that was obvious, so I didn't guess that. Like, I was like, oh, that's too obvious.
You dumb Dora. This one's easy. What's the giggle water?
That's the alcohol.
That's right. Half seized over.
Hungover?
Shit-faced.
Oh, my.
That's what it says. Half seized over equals shit-faced.
So after some further research, Clark Gable wasn't gay. but Rock Hudson was. So.
I know Rock Hudson. Everybody knows Rock Hudson was. Jesus Christ.
That might be the current quote of 2020 from me. After further research, Clark Gable wasn't gay.
Wasn't gay.
What's next?
Iron one's shoelaces. I don't understand this.
Iron one's.
But somebody would look at you and say, "Excuse me, I have to iron one's shoelaces."
Tie your shoes?
No. To excuse oneself for the restroom.
That makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah. It's like when in the 20s when you had to be like, "Excuse me," like you have to leave a meeting because you have to go shit. You have to be like, "Excuse me, I have to go iron one's shoelaces." What does that mean?
I mean, if you're ironing your shoelaces, you were taking a hell of a dump.
Yeah, I don't understand what's going on. I love this one. Know your onions.
Know your onions?
Know your onions.
Mind your business?
If you want to be successful, you better know your onions.
Like,
That's to know what's up, what's going on around you.
Your information,
Yeah,
okay.
He's trying to get one over on you. Know your onions. Let's start using that at work. You want some noodle juice?
Noodle juice.
Yeah, you want some noodle?
Is that info? Like the info?
No, you want
me
some noodle juice?
The
You want some noodle-
411?
No. Trying to give you some noodle juice.
Well, tell me what the fuck it is before you give it to me.
It's just some tea.
Oh, that's boring.
Noodle juice, tea. Now you're on the trolley.
You're with the program. You know what's
Yeah,
up.
you got it right. You know what's going on. Now you're on the trolley. Oh, but you're off the trolley because you're on a toot.
On a toot.
Yeah,
you ain't got a fucking clue what's going on.
You're on a bender, buddy. You are drunk as fuck.
On the toot.
You notice, and then there's another one.
That's usually how we are by the end of this show. On the
Yeah,
toot.
then there's another one, ossified, which that's drunk. There's the 20s, there's more expressions for just being completely obliterated than anything else.
Which proves that when you take something away from people, that's when they're going to do it the most.
Yeah. They're just downing panther piss. Which is whiskey, particularly homemade whiskey. Oh my. When's the last time you were at the petting pantry?
Is that the whorehouse?
It's a cinema or movie theater.
No.
Oh, they were just fucking in there. When's the last time you pulled a Daniel Boone?
After I had Taco Bell? Pulled a Daniel Boone. Is that like, I don't know. What would that be?
That's when you upchuck.
Oh. I didn't know Daniel Boone was associated with vomiting.
I didn't either. Let's see, there's one. There's like Zold that's being shit-faced. Like, there's so many.
For being drunk.
Just being drunk. Yeah, and this is the last one we'll do. Tell it to Sweeney.
Don't tell me, tell the other guy.
Tell it to someone who'll buy it. Like if you're trying to be like, look, officer, I'm not on the Panther Piss. I'm not ossified. I'm not on a toot. I'm not ready to pull a Daniel Boone. And you're all like wobbling around. That's when I'd be the cop. Be like, you know what, buddy? You tell it to Sweetie.
Because I know you're lying, you son of a bitch.
I know you're lying, you son bitch. You 4-flushing egg, dumb Dora, get in the bag.
You're a bad egg.
You're a bad egg.
Get in the paddy wagon. I'm no Keystone.
And you better get in there and don't take any wooden nickels.
Yeah, I'm no Keystone cop.
Jesus Christ, the 20s was fucking amazing.
And
the best part is, like, these people were just shit-faced. Just following around, like, wearing, like, fancy suits.
And Tootsie was recorded in 1922.
Oh, I was right again.
It appeared in the Jazz Singer is where Jolson sang it, and that was released in 1927.
Right again.
So there you go.
Don't quote me. Don't try to, like,
Wait a minute, I'll tell you.
Yeah. Don't try to, like, fight me on the 20s, buddy. I know my shit.
I am super excited about the year 2020 for the We Can't Wrestle podcast, as long as World War III doesn't kill us all, if you listen to social media and the media. But I'm sure we'll be fine, and by 2021, we'll still be recording this show. And that being said, since we're in the 20s, we finally caught up with ourselves. We're going to play Tootsie to send us out here. Aaron, anything else you want to say to our listeners before we sign off?
Wait a minute, I tell you.
No, just, if anybody gets any of those elusive Houdini tickets, please let me know. I'd like to see him.
I went to see him, but the guy disappeared. There it is. Tootsie. Goodbye.
Yes.
We'll see you next time around on the We Can't Wrestle podcast, where we will be reviewing WWF Super Tape Volume 2.
Like, if I could take prophylactics and equal rights to the 20s with me, I would maybe go back.
We'll see you next time around on the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Thank you all for a great 2019. And thank you for joining us on our journey through 2020. We'll see you next week. Episode 84, Al is whistling us out, is in the books.